The Stoneworks Minecraft server is the largest geopolitical focused server in Minecraft, and I've been playing it on and off for the past 4 or so years, so today I'll be recounting the full history of my time on Stoneworks. Unfortunately, due to a few different circumstances, not a ton of solid historical evidence remains of my earliest days on Stoneworks, so some of the information I will be recounted is just from my own memory. Upon first joining Stoneworks in July of 2021, I would found a small town called Kucella on the edge of the subcontinent of Australasia, I think. Through relative activity, I would grow this town rapidly, with players that I still know to this day, like Target 1405, joining. The town lacked a good builder, however, so it consisted mainly of a number of oak boxes and relatively alright houses. Eventually, we would attempt to expand, founding the small town of Aglax to our east, across a small mountain range. However, the player Athas would come to us diplomatically, informing us that this town was actually in his territory, and, through the diplomatic efforts of Target 1405, we agreed on a peaceful resolution, demolishing the town and resettling it to the north in a small abandoned city. As time went on, I became less active, and at one point, while I was on vacation and the now leader of the town 1405 was managing the city, several diplomats from surrounding nations contacted him. Other towns around us, which had popped up around our town as we developed in this sparsely populated region of Rathnir, had come together in a coalition called the Kingdom of Adavia. They came to an agreement, and the coalition was solidified with a popular vote among town leaders, leading to Target 1405 becoming the leader. Around this time, my activities truly started to wane. My town of Kucella was rapidly being drowned out by surrounding towns who had more experienced builders and more active populations. I would experience significant burnout, which came both from the fact that I built much of the town myself and that I was kind of a child. And eventually, in September of 2021, I would hand over the town to the nearby city of Albertia, led by Archangel, who I still occasionally talk to this day. Now, although I've already reconciled with the people of this community, I'd like to take a second to apologize on the record. 2021 was a rough year for me as I had just entered high school, and this led to me taking out a lot of my issues on other people in Stoneworks. This is a trend that would go on for the next year or so, and I'd like to take a second to apologize to this list of people. Anyway, this is about the end of the story of Kucella. Adavia, the kingdom which had formed around Kucella, would persist for a long, long time, and its community persists at least in part until this day in the Abexilus nation of Sacravir. Also, Birch Cube. This brings us to the second chapter of our story, the town of Albertia. Albertia was founded in the continent of Vastalos, in the territory of Carve. Now, it was a squatter town, which basically means I wasn't given permission to settle there, so I wasn't at all privy to the current situation in Carve. But its leader, Snow, I don't know, didn't exactly take kindly to me settling there. Snow raided me a few times in late 2021, and right before they were about to invade me, Carve shattered into a number of smaller states. I was luckily located in Asturtia, and the government allowed me to integrate into the kingdom. I would actually be fairly active over this time, turning Albertia into a large walled town and cultivating community. At one point, I would try to go back and retake Kucella, which Arch of course said no to. This would lead to me being very toxic, which is why I made that apology earlier. Now, something you have to know about me is that I have a very hard time focusing on one thing at once, especially if I have limited time to focus on it. So I did my best to keep my focus on Albertia, but eventually the peaceful life of building and mining bored me. So I headed north to the continent of Silator to start my most controversial and toxic expedition yet. I set out a town of Hawaiian name, which is called Aina Ahi, I think, in the country of Orlin. This period isn't very long, so I'll go over it quickly. Basically, a nearby country called Wifamovia had a rebel group within them which wanted to remove a player named Brainstorm Kid from government due to his perceived authoritarianism. I joined these rebels because, to be honest, I was a bored warmonger, and for a while we had the upper hand. We won several skirmishes and had the majority of the Wifamovian population on our side. However, the rebel government was highly toxic, and this led to general exhaustion for all parties involved, which eventually led to the entire rebel government except me quitting Stoneworks. Exhausted by geopolitics, I packed up and returned to Albertia, taking a long break. Eventually, I would return in late 2022 and begin attempting to revive Albertia. During this time, Carve, with Snow at its head, was working on a bit of a reconquista of their former empire, and after significant political discourse, the leader of the Republic of Umbria, which was a nation formed between Asturtia, Kamigawa, Kawapaloopa, Selentragao, Grizigel, and Fortisola, the leader was named Jake Kronberg, aka Blue Jay, would step down. I would, for some reason or another, be voted in as first emperor of the Ombrian Imperial Republic. For a little, I would try to keep the government together while under Curvean pressure. However, near the end of 2022, a real-life personal event that could only really be described as earth-shattering caused me to lose any motivation to do anything. I would reconcile with Snow and hand over Ombria to Carve. I want to say sorry for any Ombrians who see this. I should have probably just retired and tried to secure a successor, but I was not really in a good state of mind. So, for a long time, I would not do anything on Stoneworks. Eventually, though, I would return in late 2023. Upon my return, I would found the city of Vastro in the Osterium Sea. It would grow rapidly as a small island town, becoming highly militaristic and eventually even joining the Kartek-Fjellheim Empire. We would participate in conflicts like the Wingcliff Civil War, in which we would display our militarism by massacring the entire population of the town of Wingcliff and then an entire Bardonian town. Eventually, the end of Rathnir would draw near. The Eldham Legion would invade and conquer many lands, including Vastro. Before the end of the server, though, I would declare independence and rejoin the Kartek-Fjellheim Empire before being temporarily banned.
My soldiers push forward! My soldiers scream out! My soldiers rage!
By the way, as this story progresses, I was being temporarily banned many times for various reasons. What I can't put onto a timeline as well are the communities apart from my towns that I was a part of. I was a part of the Lebanese community for a while, which is basically a town of French people who I chilled with. I also spent a bit of time in the southeast in the nations of Vostok and Yvres, which RandomSageless made a video on, and helped Vostok get their primary city back under their control. In short, I made a lot of friends and acquaintances all over the globe. However, following the end of Rathnir, our journey into Albexius. Nah, I'm just kidding. I got banned for 6 months for a meme post in a little cringe country called Hyarlia, which Redfirerex made a lot of videos on. Go check him out. Anyway, after getting unbanned early off a technicality, I would join the Kingdom of Levan, a new nation made by my old friends from Rathnir. I would do my best to help the country, but I wasn't very active. I became even less active after a small squatter town called Amnistopol got me and a lot of Lebanese citizens temp banned for raiding them in a way that apparently wasn't satisfactory to the Stoneworks admins. Anyway, after a period of inactivity, I finally returned, with literally no school to get in the way of gaming, I guess, I don't know, because it's the end of my senior year. Me and a few friends, most of which I made during the time of Vastro and Rathnir, have come to settle in the continent of Tiberia under the Karsican Kingdom. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more Minecraft videos like this, then like and subscribe. And hey, if you want to join me or get me to make a video on your nation, then join the server in the description. Bye.